Welcome to Forum 360 on Fusion, your PBS channel. I'm Stephanie York, your host today. Thank you for joining us for a global outlook with a local view. Today we'll be talking about On the Table, Greater Akron Project, a one-of-a-kind initiative where thousands of diverse residents from all walks of life and socioeconomic backgrounds gather to share a meal and discuss meaningful ideas to strengthen our community. With me is John Garofalo, Vice President of Community Investment for the Akron Community Foundation. John keeps a pulse on what is happening with the nonprofit community in Akron and is a driving force with respect to On the Table Greater Akron. Also with me is Joe Tucker, Executive Director of South Street Ministries. South Street Ministries is a superhost of On the Table and a beneficiary of the On the Table Greater Akron Project. So let's find out about On the Table Greater Akron from John and Joe. Welcome and thank you for joining me on Forum 360.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
Yeah, we're excited.
Good, I'm excited too. So if you would, can you each tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do now for each organization?
Sure. I'm the Vice President of Community Investment, so I oversee our entire grants department within the foundation. I just celebrated my 8th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Last Wednesday. And I'm happy to be at the foundation and truly making a difference in the community.
Wonderful. And you, Joe?
Yeah, I serve as Executive Director at South Street Ministries. So that ranges from coordinating our youth programmings like Rich Kids and Bike Shop, to overseeing our reentry programming, to the Front Porch Cafe itself, to any various community engagement stuff like On the Table that we do.
Nice.
And I've been with South Street for 10 years.
Wow,
Yeah,
great.
crazy.
I can't believe it's been
that long.
Did you
Yeah.
start South Street Ministries?
No, it was started by Dwayne and Lisa Krabs
Oh,
in
that's right.
1997.
Okay.
We reincorporated in 2008 as a nonprofit, and then I stepped on as Executive Director in 2012.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So John, as Vice President of Community Investment for Akron Community Foundation, you are certainly a key player in On the Table Greater Akron. Let's start with the obvious. What is On the Table?
Sure. On the Table is really a community-wide conversation that brings people together to talk about the key issues of our community. It was started about 7 years ago in Chicago with the Chicago Community Trust, who did it the first year. They had about 25,000 people who participated. Wow. As they went on from year 2 to year 3, they're up to about 100,000 people who participate on one single day to really just get the pulse of what's happening within their community. We were very fortunate to get a grant from the Knight Foundation to be one of the 10 cities across the country to pilot this program 2 years ago. In the first year we did it, we didn't know what to expect. We set a very modest goal of bringing together 1,000 individuals, and we blew that out of the water and had close to 6,000 people who participated on October 3rd, 2 years ago for our community-wide conversations.
And then, so last year was your second year?
Second year.
How did that grow?
It grew. We had about 500 more people, so we had 6,500 people last year. We had many more students who participated, which was one of the things we lacked in the first year. Last year, every freshman in Akron Public Schools participated as part of their Freshman Academy program with their new college and career academies. And we had many school systems who participated, including Revere, who has participated ever since we started it.
So you get that wide range of age input then.
Exactly.
If you get the high school freshmen all the way through all the seniors that join in the conversation.
And we had some middle schools who participated to get the kids to be able to have their voices heard. And that's really the main purpose, is for people to have their voices heard who otherwise would not be heard if it wasn't for this opportunity.
Okay. Joe, as Executive Director of South Street Ministries, tell us what your organization does, its purpose, and its relationship to On the Table.
Yeah, gladly. So South Street Ministries' mission is unlikely partners taking a shared risk to renew our community for Christ's sake. So we work in the Summit Lake and the South Akron communities really to see community renewal happen. And a lot of that predominantly is through community engagement. So again, we're 1 block from the Summit County Jail at the Front Porch Cafe, so we work a lot with folks coming out of prison. In the Summit Lake community, we work with a lot of residents and nonprofits to kind of gather and bring forth community engagement and initiatives. And then really On the Table was a natural extension for us because we do a lot of those unlikely partnerships, bringing high school freshmen together with a neighborhood senior to figure out what can we do about a community issue. So the notion of bringing folks from different backgrounds together is something that the Front Porch Cafe has done for years. So having that structured into a formal day was really energetic for us at both South Street and the Front Porch, because we had a chance to see Actually, last year was probably one of the most engaging ones. We brought folks in the manufacturing, business sector together with folks in the reentry community, just to talk about the disconnect from workforce engagement.
Okay.
And it was a really robust conversation of just, what people from the reentry community thought and perceived, some of their limitations were, their perceptions were, what folks in the manufacturing, HR world thought as far as, some of their preconceptions and everything else. But it was a good conversation.
What's it mean to be a superhost site?
It means we host 15 conversations or more.
Oh, wow. So in one day, you have 15 different meetings with community members. They sign up. How many people would you say per meeting?
I believe they shoot for 8 to 12 is the ideal meeting time, right, John?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So 8 to 12 people, they come, there's 15 or more sessions, and you discuss similar topics in each of those 15 meetings, you
Yeah,
would say?
the three main topics this year, John, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, would be seniors in the community, the opioid epidemic, and then workforce equity and inclusion.
Diversity, equity, and social inclusion.
Wonderful.
So one of those three, as best it fits, is kind of the main theme you want to talk through during that time. And again, it's a conversation, so it goes where it goes. If it goes tangentially, that's okay.
Right. So the first year, what were the topics?
There were none, and that was intentional on our part, and nationally, that was the Knight Foundation's purpose, is not to have anything be a structured conversation. So what came out of the first year are the 5 key issues that the community identified as what are the most pressing issues in Akron. Those were economic issues and poverty, drugs and addiction, equity and social inclusion, as well as education, youth development, and public safety.
Wow.
So second year, we then focused on nothing but those 5 issues. And we asked organizations to come up with actionable solutions to those 5 key issues. And that's where our on-the-table grants came in, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Right. So the first year was an open discussion that really drilled down what the main issue, what's on people's minds. The second year, you took those 5 issues and you almost drilled it down even more to find out what are there solutions out there? Do people have ideas on how to tackle these things? And then what did you do with that information after that?
Again, the on-the-table grants was a first step in that process where we asked organizations or participants in on the table to really look at what they can do as an organization to help one of those 5 key issues. We offered $50,000 to organizations, small mini grants of $2,000 for an actionable solution just to get an idea started. And I know Joe was successful in getting one of those grants. I think you got in partnership with another one.
Yeah, we were a fiscal sponsor for one.
So there were 26 organizations that benefited from the on-the-table impact grant dollars. And this year we're looking to expand that even more.
So you got a grant.
We did.
And you worked with another group for another grant.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so tell me about those.
I'll tell you about both of them.
Please.
So the one we got for South Street proper was for these restoration breakfasts, we called them. And really, out of that conversation I mentioned earlier with the reentry community and some of the local manufacturing companies, we wanted to continue to bring them together to really discuss what are some of the barriers, hindrances towards folks that have records coming out of prison, stepping back into life, to step towards gainful employment. Not just a temp work somewhere, but really a gainful employment. And if you look at the flip side, we've worked with Connexus. In this area, manufacturing needs skilled workers to fill some of these positions. So there's this kind of large population that wants to find work and this large companies that want to find workers. And what are the points of disconnection?
Right.
So we've had one breakfast already where we brought kind of representatives from both those groups together just to further that conversation. Our next one is coming up. Oh, I should have this date memorized. In mid-September.
Okay.
Sorry, Jenny. For our second iteration of that conversation, but really just beginning to pilot, what does it look like to further connect, folks in the reentry community to folks from to the jobs that exist in our area.
And you're actually connecting the people.
At
these
connecting
breakfasts.
the people.
Right. And then the second one?
We were a fiscal agent which means we kind of help the money go through where it needs to get to, for community block parties in Summit Lake.
Oh, wonderful.
So we had a big skating party, I think it was in the Beacon Journal not too long ago.
I think so.
In the summer, that just brought together a lot of the residents in Summit Lake. And this next Sunday, August 11th, a lot of the Summit Lake leaders are doing another party on Princeton Street, right across that Princeton Bridge that goes over 77, 76. So again, taking some of the spaces of the Summit Lake neighborhood that aren't as engaging as the lakefront and just activating them as well and bringing residents together and neighbors together.
Well, like Summit Lake is really transforming
Yeah.
lately. I mean, it's gone through a huge transformation even in the last year. So, getting people to be aware of that, having these parties would even bring awareness to everything that's going on and all the activities that are sprouting up in that area.
And I think bringing some of that lakefront vitality into the heart of the neighborhood as well. That's really what that grant was, I think, intentioned
Nice.
around was there have been so many exciting things along the towpath and the lakefront, which we
Sure.
celebrate. Can we see comparable things, 4 blocks into the interior of the Summit Lake neighborhood as well?
Yeah, and that can
And
be
we have.
challenging.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're right, it's not without challenges.
So I want to remind our viewers and those who may have joined late that we are here with John Garofalo, Vice President of Community Investment for the Akron Community Foundation, and Joe Tucker, Executive Director of South Street Ministries. And we're talking about the community-wide event called On the Table. On the Table is a one-day event where anyone in the community can sign up to share a meal and discuss real issues, difficult issues such as poverty, inclusion and diversity, race and gender issues, education, and more. So, are the hosts trained to facilitate these kind of discussions?
They are.
Oh.
We do offer various host trainings that anyone who signs up to be a host can attend. At that training, we go over exactly what it means to be a host, all the paperwork that's involved. We want to make this as easy as possible for the
Sure.
hosts, so we don't want to make it too labor intensive for them. Our main goal for the host is to agree to host the conversation, invite 8 to 12 of their friends, as Joe said, provide a small meal. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It could be a brown bag, it could be coffee and donuts.
Nice.
And then really invite their friends. So outside of their network, people that they know, people they may not know, to really come in. And that's the whole benefit of On the Table, is that sometimes you're in a room with people you do know, but I think some of the most fruitful conversations are with people who don't know each other at all. And that's when people are truly honest with each other.
It's very interesting because I participated in both On the Tables, not knowing that I would be having this conversation with you guys 2 years later. And the first On the Table conversation I joined was at somebody's house that I didn't know, that I just picked. There's about 6 of us around a table, and it was really an interesting conversation because nobody really knew anybody. We really could be honest about the issues. I was outside my comfort zone, which I liked, to meet new people and do that kind of thing. And then the second one I did at a more formal setting, which was at Mustard Seed Market. They're a super host as well. And there were more people there, probably around 15 around the table. And I knew a lot of people there, and the conversation was still robust. Just a different vibe because I knew the people versus not knowing the people. And I gotta tell you, both were really productive conversations. So I don't know what I'm gonna do this year. I have to decide where I'm gonna go and how I'm gonna get out of my comfort zone and try something new again. So that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward.
I can tell you some people look for various conversations all times throughout the day.
Right.
So there are some
Oh,
people
so I
who
could do
go
a couple of them.
go to a breakfast somewhere, they go to a lunch somewhere else, and then they go somewhere in the evening,
Wow.
maybe to a local pub where they're just sitting around a table having that conversation. So there's no formality.
You get fed at all 3.
Exactly.
I mean,
There
what
it
more?
is.
There
There
there's
it
something.
is.
Tell me, there's something about sharing a meal with someone.
There's something about breaking bread that really
Yes.
allows people to really feel relaxed. And we try not to call these meetings. We
Right.
don't want them to be a meeting. We want them to just be open conversation like we're having today, just for people to really express their opinions and their thoughts.
And it really is like that. I got to tell you, because you're eating and you're drinking, not drinking. You're drinking coffee and soda and things like that. And it's really, there's something about sharing a meal with someone
Exactly.
and breaking bread. And it's really nice. I think it's a fabulous idea if you haven't noticed.
Well, and you can step towards those deeper places in ways that aren't a debate or a contest or a conflict. I mean, it's a conversation. So I think what I value about On the Table is it lets us address issues that we have as a community, as a city, as a place, that you can address them in a way that isn't, we have to fix this and solve this, or I have to win the conversation. It's literally, hey, help me understand where you're coming from. Help me understand what's going on here. I think we had a gentleman come to most of the conversations at the front porch a few years ago, just to hear different perspectives. And
Sure.
he really valued kind of the various folks that shared, from the recovery community to reentry to even some of the local leaders of a community mosque shared some thoughts as well. And for him, it was very eye-opening to just hear various perspectives throughout the course of the day.
Right. So October 3rd, is it always on October 3rd?
We've been just fortunate to have it October 3rd the last 3 years. First year it was a Tuesday, last year it was a Wednesday, this year it's a Thursday.
Well, that's cool. So next year it'll be a Friday, and
Makes
then
it
you'll
easy.
probably have to jump to a Monday or something. But it's nice that it's October 3rd. People can remember that
Exactly.
if it's 3 years in a row. So it's the third annual event on October 3rd. Tell people how they can get involved.
Sure. They can call us at the foundation. We are located on West Cedar Street in Akron, right up the street from Akron General. Or you can visit our website, which is onthetableakron.com. And there lists all the information you need to know, from host trainings to public conversations, and we haven't even talked about those, as there are various public conversations throughout the community, mainly at Greystone Hall.
Okay.
So people who work in the downtown area don't even have to worry about signing or hosting their own conversation. They can just sign up for a public conversation, and there'll be various tables set up at Greystone in the morning at 8, at 10, and at noon. Meals are provided thanks to the generosity of the John S. Knight Center,
Wow.
who provide all the food for those conversations. So people can go to the website to sign up for any of the public conversations. You mentioned Mustard Seed Market. They will also have public conversations, and a majority of the libraries in the Summit County area are all participating. So they'll have various conversations at their facilities for public to go to.
Okay, so not only can a host have one, like one, I don't want to say meeting, one event several times a day, but they could have several events going on at the same time.
Correct.
Several times a day. That's how you
and-
become a super host,
There
I
it
guess.
is.
So, but there's still smaller conversations within those. So they have several events. They have like 8 tables, let's say,
Correct.
of 8 people, and they're all having their own different conversations around the same issues, but they could go on different tangents
Exactly.
and talk about whatever really
Yeah,
concerns them.
I'll use Cleveland Clinic Akron General
Please.
as an example. They set aside from I believe 11 to 1 in the afternoon in their conference center. They have 15 tables set up. They have hosts for each table, and then they get the community and their physicians and their employees and even patients who may be there,
Wow.
or family members who maybe have an hour to kill, who maybe just want to come and get a meal. And they've been very successful in really recruiting people to come to those, and having a wide variety of conversations, topics covered.
So are you looking for hosts?
We are
Okay.
always looking for hosts.
Is there ever too many? Do you run
Never.
out of spots or things? So there's still time, everyone, to
Exactly.
sign up, be a host, even if it's just one meal one day, right? Have some people at your house, serve donuts and coffee if you don't want to make anything, and have that really good conversation with 6 or 8 people you may or
Exactly.
may not know.
Yeah, and I think to your guys' point, as far as demographics, I know for some of the young adults, 18 to 24 is one of the areas that the Community Foundation wanted to see a little bit of growth in. So if you know a lot of young people
Sure.
who are never ones to turn down free food or free meals,
Trust
yeah,
me,
but
I have
gather
an
them together.
18-year-old son. He'll eat us.
Yeah.
Hosting that might be difficult.
Yeah.
I have to find a super host to host those boys, right? That can eat a
Yeah,
lot.
that'll be a lot of food.
And you talk about sponsors. We're very fortunate to have the great generosity of the Knight Foundation again
That's
this
great.
year. Huntington Bank has stepped up to be one of our sponsors as well. And everyone in the community knows about Main Street Gourmet. Main
sure.
Street Gourmet donates about 5,000 pounds of product for conversations that may just need some help with their food.
Sure.
Especially nonprofit organizations that may be a hardship for them to provide
Right.
foods and beverages. So Main Street Gourmet.
Main Street muffins and cookies are amazing, by the way.
They're
So
fabulous.
They are fabulous. So do people, when they host, they use their own money for this? Can they get reimbursed? They do get some help if they need food from
Correct.
Main Street Gourmet. How does all different? You do all those things?
Yeah,
How's
our
that?
overall goal is for the host is to provide the meal.
Sure.
Because we only have limited dollars available. But for those nonprofit organizations who may need a couple Domino Pizza gift certificates,
Sure.
we're able to provide those to them so that they have that meal, because that conversation is equally as important
Right.
as that one where a 3-course meal is being prepared. So we have that available. We have the Main Street Gourmet contribution with a partnership with the Akron Canton Regional Food Bank.
Wonderful.
So Main Street Gourmet donates it to the food bank, and then anyone who needs it, there's a form to complete, and they just turn it into the food bank.
Okay.
You're taking notes,
No,
right?
yes.
You can do that.
I didn't know that part.
So what would you like to see happen ultimately as a result of On the Table? I mean, do you see this? I mean, this is a big, huge event. Do you see it evolving even bigger, or do you see something else evolving out of this?
Well, something else that has come out of it over the last 2 years is that the Akron Community Foundation has mainly been known as a reactive grant maker. So organizations apply to us, we react to them, and then we award grants. Over the last 2 years, we've looking at becoming more of a proactive grant maker, where we've identified those key issues that came from On the Table, as well as from a community needs assessment, to really focus on what can we as a community do to move some issues forward. And one of those is the aging senior population. I think the statistic is sobering, by 2030, a huge percentage of our population here in Summit County will be of the senior age.
Sure, we're all going to be seniors someday, God willing,
Exactly.
right?
So what programs and services can we provide to allow seniors to age at home? So that's a priority for us.
Absolutely.
Drugs and addiction has been another priority for us. It still continues to be an issue. Great partners in the community, especially with other organizations who are focusing on this, but we realize that we need to put our hat in the ring as well. And then the third one is the whole issue of diversity, equity, and social inclusions. As we go out in the community, it seems like everyone is talking about this.
They are.
So what can we do as a community foundation to really bring everyone together to talk about what are one or two things in this community can we do as a whole, instead of working in individual silos, to really focus on this issue.
Right, and attacking these holistically from all sides, you know, with different organizations taking different portions of it, you know, really can make a difference.
Right. And this is the last year of national funding from the Knight Foundation for this initiative. So we have talked, and we've talked with the other cohort cities around the country, is this something that we do every year? Is it something we do every 2 years? So once this year is complete, we will really look at that and focus on what does On the Table look like in the future.
What's the span geographically of On the Table at Greater Akron?
We cover all of Summit and all of Medina counties.
Wonderful. So Hudson's part of that.
Hudson is part of that.
Come on, Hudson residents.
Actually,
get involved.
Hudson and the Hudson Community Foundation was a super host the first year
Wonderful.
of it, where they really focused, along with the schools and all the government officials, to really look at the whole drug and addiction issue here in Hudson.
That's great. That's wow. Do you see new topics evolving out of this, or are we going to stay with the topics that have come out already?
It really depends on kind of where we go with our proactive grant making. Something else may surface as more of an issue or a priority that comes from it. We'll see with this year's conversations, what comes out of those conversations. And really, we allow the topics are the topics, and they don't have to talk about the 3 topics that we suggest. So we tell people, talk about whatever you want to talk about, as long as you're coming together, you're meeting your neighbors, you're getting to know people who you don't know. And so much has come from these conversations, where we hear on a weekly basis from organizations who host conversations who say, you know what, as a result of the first On the Table, we are continuing to meet every month,
really
every
cool.
2 months, just to get together, have a conversation, have a meal, and talk about what we can do to better our community or our organization. So that's really
Gathering
powerful.
all this information has got to be overwhelming. I mean, how many thousands of people?
6,500 last year.
6,500 people last year. All this information. How do you wrap your arms around? Who wraps their arms around this information, and how do they figure out what the different issues are? You know, drill it down and come to make something out of this.
Sure.
I mean, it seems almost an impossible task.
We are very fortunate because of the partnership with the Knight Foundation, is they have actually paid for the researchers to do all the data collection. So after the conversations, everyone is asked to complete either a paper survey or an online survey, or even on their phone. They can get a text survey to really talk about what happened in their conversation. That all goes to the research companies, who compile all the information, and they get it back to us within a 4 to 6 week time frame after the conversation.
So that first year, when you got all that information, it was drilled down, and you got these 5 topics. Was there any topic that you went like, "Wow, I had no idea," or that was on people's minds, or were you pretty like, you know what, this does not surprise me. I'm glad we've defined it.
No, the 5 that were surfaced the first year didn't surprise me, but there were ones that I thought would surface higher than the ones that came aboard.
I got it, yeah.
Especially the whole transportation issue in Summit County. We hear that that's always a major issue, and every community is different. I mean, what's important and what's critical here in Akron may be different from one of the other 9 cities across the country who are participating.
The aging is a little surprising to me. I mean, it's not surprising that it's an issue. It's surprising that it rose up, because I don't hear people talking about that. as much as they're talking about the opioid and all those other crises. So
Yeah, the
it's
aging
great.
senior population is something that Akron Community Foundation has heavily invested in and will continue to invest in. And really, people don't talk about needed services for the seniors until they need it,
Right.
Yeah.
which is scary.
It is scary because we do need to plan.
And the majority of those seniors who are of that age think that they're going to be able to pay for what they need via Medicare.
Right.
And that's really not that's always not the case.
Right. Well, we now know that big ideas spring from small conversations and that people invest in what they help create. Powerful things can happen and are happening in Greater Akron because we are coming together face to face to find common ground on community issues and challenges that matter to real people, to us. Today we talked with John Garofalo and Joe Tucker about On the Table Greater Akron coming to our area on October 3rd, 2019, and there's still time to sign up. I'm Stephanie York, your host today, and thank you for joining us on Forum 360, sponsored by the Knight and Akron Community Foundations and the Jewish Community Board of Akron, on Fusion, your PBS channel.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.